Good morning, my name's James Taylor. I lead the spatial data processing part of the SCRI Efficient Vineyard project. I'm here today in Portland, New York, but I'm going to talk about berry colour development and counting berries, which is really work that we're doing or supporting in California. But in Portland today, we're just starting to head towards veraison, so we're starting to get some colouring. You can see that the berries in these Concord grapes are just starting to turn. And that's relevant for the work in the table grape industry, because the table grapes are really interested in how many berries or how many bunches they have and what is the colour of those bunches. So the work that this project is doing, and I'm sure you've seen some of the work with the Carnegie melon sensor, is counting those berries and giving growers information about how ripe those berries are and whether they should pick them, send picking crews down rows, etc. My PhD student Claudio Piccinini, he's been working hard to understand how we might be able to deliver this data in a little bit more timely manner to the growers. So the Carnegie melon sensor is a very fancy sensor, and it's a great sensor for what it does, but it generates a lot of data. So when they drive through a vineyard, they get about 4 terabytes of data, which is just not physically possible to shift through a web server or through an upload link. So they're currently moving hard disks of data around the country to process them and give that data back to the growers. So that is not very efficient. If a vineyard is scanned one day in California and that hard disk has to be shipped overnight to Carnegie Mellon or to some processing point, processed, and then the information delivered back, you're talking days probably in that process. So Claudio has been working to think, well, yes, collecting that data is great, but in terms of a very quick, rapid decision process, do we need all that data, and how can we reduce that data a little bit? So he's looked at imagery and reducing the number of images that are being analysed within a vineyard. So we took out randomly 50% of the data, or systematically 50% of the data, again at 25%, 15%, 10%, 5%, 2% and 1%. And what we found was, because there is so much data collected, which is great, we can actually get down to sort of 2, 5, 2 and 1%, and we have almost the same prediction of the colour grades along the row and the number of berries along the row as we have with the raw data. Then we can actually predict for the entire row. So we can go from 1% and extrapolate back up to the entire row. And that error, when we do that, is less than 1%. So the time, in terms of the data time and the processing time for the imagery, is 1/100th of what is currently being done. So if we can do that, and we can identify which images we actually want to extract out of the data set in the first place, then they suddenly become a data set that's capable of being moved around digitally via web servers and web interfaces. The processing time, the data delivery time is much quicker, so the information is getting back to the grower much quicker. That doesn't preclude actually analysing all the data and doing that properly over the longer term, because that's slightly better data, and it's more interesting, and there's other things that might come out of there. But what the grower wants after the sensing is, how many berries do I have in that row? How many of them can be picked? And we can reduce the amount of data analysis that we need to do to give a good answer back to the growers. So Claudio has been working on that, has proven that, and we'll look to publish that and interface with the Carnegie Mellon guys so that they can deliver information much more quickly to the growers. So thank you for listening. If you have any suggestions or comments on what I've been talking about today, please leave them in the suggestion box below the YouTube video, and I'm happy to talk about other aspects of the project if you have a particular interest in either canopy sensing, yield estimation or crop estimation. Thanks.